All right, so on to our segment 3, which we talk about the movies we saw this week. David and I saw a couple of new movies, so David gets to join me for once with one of our newer ones. We both saw Gentleman and Color Out of Space, and actually Color Out of Space, starring the Nicolas Cage. This show just needs to be renamed Nicolas Cage and Friends, because this is just all we do is Nick Cage every day.
Yeah, I didn't even, because we mentioned earlier that we have to get a Nick Cage reference in there. I didn't even think ahead to segment 3 where I was going to talk about Nick Cage.
Yeah, I forgot about Color Space.
He is so ingrained into Coast to Coast film reviews that it's almost like he's here.
If there is ever a time when he is on the show, that will just be, oh my gosh, like that'll be like the penultimate episode of this whole podcast if we can get him on. All right, so let's start off with The Gentleman. What did you think of The Gentleman, David?
Well, first off, I wouldn't say I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. I really loved his 2 earlier films, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Snatch. Thought they were just brilliant films. And I didn't know too much about this. I just read a couple bylines, Guy Ritchie is going back to the old Guy Ritchie, and I saw what the cast was. I didn't watch the trailer or anything, but I knew enough to know it was one of his gangster criminal comedies, and that was enough to make me say I want to go to the theaters and see this. And Guy Ritchie, he's back to form. I really enjoyed this film.
I liked it a lot, but there was just I don't know. There was at times when I felt Matthew McConaughey, like I got the whole gruff exterior thing. But there were some times where I was like, man, I just wish he was a little clean shaven in this scene, because I just keep seeing this stoner kind of look to him, the way like he was just, I don't know, like I get the whole rich thing, and they got the lion's mane and he's all like unkept like that. But I was just like, man, this guy's got all the money in the world, and he never even shaves. Like it was just, I just wanted a little bit more clean cut. But then I understood, like, oh, okay, gotta have the man hair.
Hey, El Chapo was still kind of sloppy looking.
Yeah, he's not, my ideal hero or anything. Like if you're going for the hero look, El Chapo.
Yeah, Escobar wasn't the cleanest looking guy either.
Who's your favorite character in the movie, and why?
Colin Farrell by far.
I figured, since you put him in the banner, the picture for your review.
Yeah, well, just a little bit about this film. It's a Guy Ritchie film. What he's really good at, he takes a lot of moving parts and is able to construct them into a narrative and bring it all back together. But Matthew McConaughey, he's pretty much the weed kingpin in England, and he's wants to retire, wants to sell his business. So in the process of selling his business and trying to get a deal together, a bunch of other factions are coming together to drive that price down or just take his business totally away from him. And Hugh Grant plays kind of like a slimy, investigative journalist, private eye type guy. And he has a lot of information that he wants to sell back to Matthew McConaughey to kind of help him seal the deal and know who's screwing him over.
Yeah, he was essentially playing both sides. He's like trying to get who can pay me more to keep something quiet or for information.
And Hugh Grant, I thought was great too. I'm not a Hugh Grant fan.
Me neither. I was surprised. He was so funny.
In if I didn't know it was Hugh Grant, I wouldn't even really recognized him. His look is really different. His accent is totally different in this film. And he plays a narrator, which he plays with the story a lot. He embellishes, so he's not the most reliable narrator, but I really liked his character as well. I liked them all. Charlie Hunnam, who was he's the lead character.
Hunnam?
Is it Hunnam?
I've always said Hunnam.
I don't know.
I like Hunnam. Hunnam sound. I don't know what that even.
It sounds kind of Asian, huh? If I say call him Hunnam.
It's like Hunnam.
Hunnam, Hunnam.
However you want, go for it.
But a lot of people know him. He was the main character, of Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
But he plays Matthew McConaughey's kind of like his right hand man, kind of his muscle.
Mm.
And he just plays this really cool, calm, intimidating character. And he's very subtle, but also very intimidating at the same time. And I think that he played this part really well as well.
Yeah, him and Matthew both played like very just like badass, like they got their shit together kind of guys. Like it wasn't ever just, like they were never scrambling. Like their just personalities were just very, what's the word? I guess alpha. Like they were just very on top of shit. Like the way
Yeah.
they know what they're good at, and that the movie just really played well with them. And
They had a lot of confidence.
yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever how many millions of dollars that business was worth and stuff. Like I guess that's what you got to have to run the 400 million or something he was trying to sell it for.
Well, and Colin Farrell, he plays like a gym trainer. He trains young kids in MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and like in most Guy Ritchie films, he is just kind of dragged into this whole plot unwillingly. Some of his students end up robbing Matthew McConaughey's stash, so he tries to vouch, but he is so funny in this film. The first scene we see him in, he looks like a huge dork.
Yeah.
But he's ordering food, and there's some rambunctious teenagers, and he just has words with them, and they try to test him, and he just kicks all their asses. But he does it in such a funny way.
Yeah. And in doing so, at the end, he suggests that they come to his gym to learn how to really fight. Like at the end, I was like, "Oh, that's a great promotion right there."
Yeah, he's just slapping their knives out of their hands like they're babies.
I mean, this was like the length of this movie was the most British I could take. There's just something about the British accent. Like I have to try real hard to sometimes not miss a lot just because of the accents and stuff. I just don't pick up on it as quickly. So like all that effort and focus that it takes, like I can't last much longer than this movie was dishing out.
And
So
see, I'm the opposite. I
and maybe
love.
you've seen more. Like I haven't seen a lot.
And
of it,
I've
so.
seen a lot, and I'm just such a big fan of British humor. Growing up with Monty Python and Benny Hill and all that type of stuff, I just really love British humor, and I've always been a fan of British film. So it's for me. If I'll put it this way, folks, if you like Smoking Barrels or you like Snatch, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's probably a 90% chance you're gonna enjoy this film.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Yeah, it was very enjoyable. It was a fun watch. There really wasn't much I didn't like about it, and it was almost Tarantino-esque. And I don't know if that's an insult to you and your Guy Ritchie love, but there was just something about the pacing and just that awkward humor that you just can't help but enjoy in between some of these serious moments. It's just really weird. Like that vomit scene, like I won't go into too much detail about it. It's like it was just so sudden. I was like, whoa, what? like it's just how Tarantino does these weird, funny scenes.
Yeah.
And then they're picking at each other's dialogue and correcting each other's grammar. Like it was almost Monty Python like. It was funny. It really kept me interested. It didn't get like droning like some kind of big, huge plan and that stuff going on.
And yeah, I would say they have similar styles. They came out. What's Reservoir Dogs? Early '90s. People didn't really know about Tarantino that much. I mean, I love Reservoir Dogs, but he wasn't really a name until Pulp Fiction. What is that? 94, 95, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels came out in '98. So the guy in his first film was a short film in '95. I haven't seen that one. So they come from that same era. They're both really good at writing dialogue, and they both like hyper excited editing. They change scenes, and they like to change perspectives a lot. So I can definitely see the comparison.
Yeah, it was really interesting storytelling. I didn't expect it to be like this, and I really wasn't in the mood for a movie that was going to be just serious. And I was like, like I really don't want to see a serious movie. And we got there, and like Hugh Grant was being so funny. It's like, oh, good, because like they really cheered me up that it was so funny.
I laughed a lot. I laughed a
Yeah.
lot at this film. Yeah, I definitely would recommend this. I think I gave it an 8,
Oh wow,
if I
really?
remember. And you gave it like a 7.5, or what did you do, like
4? I think it was a point
7.4?
4.
So
Yep.
our ratings weren't too far off, and
No.
an 8 for me. That means there's a good chance that at the end of the year, this might be on one of our lists that we talk about.
I
So
initially said 8 when Jess asked, and then after our discussion, Jess was like, I went with her to see it, and yeah, afterwards she was just like, I don't know, it was kind of this and that. And we were kind of discussing in the car, and I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of dropped it a bit, but I did start at an 8, if that makes you feel better. I just flat out, she said, what would you rate it? And I was like, yeah, about an 8 at most, and then we got talking, and she brought it down, so you can blame her for that.
and there's not many negatives I can pull away from this film.
Yeah,
Um, and people say, why you didn't give it a 10?
yeah, exactly.
But um, there's just not too many negatives. There's not really plot holes because Guy Ritchie's so good at pulling things back together. Like the vomiting scene you were speaking of.
Mm.
They waited till the end to reveal how that scene came about. And I'm in the middle of the scene and they're waiting all the way to the end. And I'm like, is he going to forget to tell us how we got to that point? And right at the end of the scene, he tells you how he got to that point, and actually turns that into a threat. So he's very good at telling a story with all these moving parts because there's so many characters and there's so many different types of personalities, and he's just able to hold it together.
It was good. I appreciate it, and I'm glad he made this comeback after Aladdin
Yeah.
was done so well that I will never do a review on it. But it's yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I actually saw it in theaters. I would say it's like when it comes to some of these movies that are in theaters, like I hate telling people like you got to see it in theaters because there isn't a huge need. Like it's not like big explosions, action. I don't really care to see drama in theaters. Like it's just as good at home. You know what I mean? Like, but I would say it's a definite watch. Like you should
Yeah,
see it. It's a lot of fun.
I don't say that often either.
Yeah.
The only film I saw in theaters last year that I feel that it was much better experience is probably The Lighthouse, and that's mainly because of the
Mm.
sound design. The sound design was so good. It was nice to hear it with, the super amped up speakers and the surround sound.
Yeah,
But
there was an actual visual reason, right?
yeah,
And sound, you said, yeah.
yeah. So and seeing in theaters are usually more for the sound aspect. For
Mm.
me personally, when it comes to a film, if it has a really amazing sound design and it just really helps to have a theater system, you can enjoy it more. But and I can watch it at home too. I can enjoy it just as much.
Right. Yeah. Um,
But for January, if you're looking for a film to go out to see, there's just not many films to pick from in January. The next one that we'll speak of is a January film. Usually, January films suck. That's just how it usually works out, and it was surprising how I was surprised how good this film was.
wait, the next one, or are you still talking about Gentlemen?
Both of these, both
Oh, okay.
to get two great films in January. At least the other one I think was amazing too. Is that just doesn't happen often.
So, well, let's get into our honorary Coast to Coast member, Nicolas Cage, stars in Color Out of Space, which is to be released on media, on digital media and purchasable other media forms, Blu-ray and DVD on February, what was it, 25th or 27th?
I think it's 25th,
Something like that.
and it's
It
doing
had a
some
limited
limited.
release here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
But
unfortunately, not a lot of people are going to be able to see it in theaters.
it's already
Um,
gone for me. Like it was only in a couple theaters with like 2 or 3 showtimes, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, it's already out."
well, this is produced by Spectravision, which another person we seem to reference a lot,
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Wood. That's Elijah Wood's
Elijah.
company. Um, and I think those guys are smart enough to know that, like horror fans, the bread and butter is going to be in streaming and in physical media.
Mm.
Um, So they knew they weren't going to have a box office hit on their hands. So they're doing like a month turnaround to get the Blu-ray into people's hands, which is amazing.
Yeah, I know. It was I managed to see it. Um and I got around finally to watching the end because I had to see it in parts. There was a scene that was a bit disturbing for the wifey, and it was I understood it too, but I don't know. It didn't last that long, but anyway, it upset her, so I had to stop, and I came back like I think it was like 2 days later, and ended up watching the whole thing over. But yeah, well, why don't I'll do a quick premise of the story.
Yeah.
So there's a family. What's their last name? I don't remember their last names.
Here, let me pull it up.
The Wards?
Gardner.
Gardeners. That's
It
right.
fits perfectly, huh?
Yeah. So they're living out in the woods near the city, outside the city of Arkham. No relation to Gotham or Batman DC
Well,
lore.
that's where they get this is a H.P. Lovecraft story. So Arkham is the writers of Batman took that from H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, really? See, I
Yeah.
guess there is a link then. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they're living out there, and in what seems to be, pretty common harmony among the siblings and between the husband and wife. There's nothing real
And they're farmers, we should
issues.
mention.
Yeah, and alpaca farmers. I love alpacas. They're so cool. And so one fine day, a meteorite lands in their property. It gives off a purplish glow, although later on, Nicolas Cage says that it's a color that he couldn't describe. So it's from out of this world. And it begins to leach into everything around them, into their food, into their water. Eventually, it starts to change them, and even through their food or also by contact, it affects a couple of the family members, and it's a visual kind of thing. I think we've seen that kind of thing before, like this color kind of under the skin sort of look to them, and there's not a lot of explanation to a lot of it. So, I mean, people who are fans of the Lovecraft text behind this probably have way more information than I do because I'm not a fan of the book or the author or the series or anything. So there's probably way more that I'm just not understanding because of that.
Well, to tell you the truth,
Hmm.
H.P. Lovecraft he liked to not give answers.
Oh,
He
were you in the
and
dark as much as anyone else would be?
well, I knew the story. It's one of his most famous stories. He was a short story writer, similar to Edgar Allan Poe. Most of his stuff was done in short story mode. But this is probably, I mean, everybody knows Cthulhu, but outside of Cthulhu mythos, this would probably be his most famous story.
Okay.
But it's cosmic horror. I guess the way he looked at it is it didn't really need an answer. Think of the original Halloween. We didn't really ever get an answer of why Michael Myers is killing everybody. So you see that a lot in horror. And you don't see aliens or anything like that. It's just a meteorite that's emitting this color that is destroying these people. Now, visually, it's I would say Annihilation meets The Thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I see how you mean by Annihilation. The Thing. Yeah. I guess because it goes
Think about the
around
alpaca monster.
Yeah.
It's almost comparable to the dog monster.
The wolves.
Yeah, and the special effects, the practical effects in this are amazing. They did a great job. It's directed by Richard Stanley, who is a pretty interesting character if you ever get to read up on him, and starring Nick Cage. And what did I rate this? I gave it a 9, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I gave it a 9. The reason that last act, or even the last 10-15 minutes, I was, people say a movie's tense. I felt physically tense, like my muscles are tight, like I was just glued to it. I don't think a muscle in my body besides, my chest cavity was moving, and it just sucked me in. And after the end, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I just felt physically different. It affected me on a physical level.
I think I kind of wish well, I could always go read it, but I do want to read the short story and just kind of see how they adapted it. Because I mean, from a fan perspective, it sounds like I missed out on something, like there's just like this love you had and expectation you had for this movie. Then obviously Nicolas Cage, man, bringing it to life. This guy.
Well, I know from what I read, Richard Stanley, he grew up reading Lovecraft. He said it was his mother's favorite author,
Hmm.
and he spent a lot of time reading it to her when I believe she was dying from cancer.
Oh,
So he has, I guess that would give you kind of a tight emotional bond to H.P. Lovecraft and those type of memories. Um, but it's probably from the age 10, I was a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft. And unfortunately, the way that he writes isn't really conducive to making films. So there's been a lot of attempts, and most of them just are terrible, or they have to change the source material so much that it doesn't even seem like a H.P. Lovecraft story anymore.
mm.
And this one, it kept they updated it in the modern times. I mean, this story's 100 years old by now. I mean, probably 90, 100 years old.
Oh wow,
Uh,
really?
yeah, he was back in the 20s. He was
Oh
writing.
yeah, that is 100 years ago now.
Yeah. um, but they updated it for modern times. But I think they did a really good job of keeping to the source material. And even having a little comedy in there, having Tommy Chong show up was kind of funny. I'm always happy to see Tommy Chong.
Man, that guy is just waiting to fall over. He looks so old. I couldn't believe it. I don't even remember what last movie I saw him in besides the classic one. But yeah, man, it's like holy cow. Like, it's weird when you see a movie with certain actors or actresses and like it's on TV and you don't realize like how old that movie is. And then you
Oh
see
yeah.
him in something new and you're like, holy hell, what happened to this guy? Like he's falling apart. I just saw him last week. He looked brand new, brand spanking new.
Now,
But yeah, you
if you're not a horror fan, I don't think you're gonna really like this all that much. It's definitely made for the horror fan. It's not
yeah,
trying to be real art house or any. It's not. It knows what it is, and it's sticking to its roots.
like it had its creepy moments and pretty much any scene with Nick Cage I was just in love with. Like I loved all of his craziness. The tomatoes when he was I was just like,
What
can you
about when
keep
he's in the
this up?
car and he just starts beating up the ceiling of the car?
Oh, because it doesn't start and he's just cussing up a storm.
Yeah,
A
starts
bit.
punching the whole car.
It's just like, yes.
That
This
was the most Nick Cage moment for me.
it was so awesome. You know what I didn't like? One thing I really didn't like was his impersonation of his father. I wasn't totally latched on. Like it just didn't come off very believable. I don't know why they wanted him to do that particular accent or if that's all he could do. But like I wanted something that was more like I don't know, more hurtful or more of a bad memory because it just seemed like it was very jokey the way he was doing it, and I don't know. And then he ended up obviously, what's the word, like becoming sort of possessed by doing that impersonation, becoming him.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that's the tomato scene is probably my favorite, and he's just going crazy. And I wasn't huge on his wife either. I guess she did a good kind of switch from the normal to the crazy role in the movie, but I don't know. I mean, I don't even know much about like what other actresses are available in that age range or would fit in that recast for that. But I don't know. Then the kids were okay. They didn't really have huge parts or anything, but
The
um,
son didn't even seem to need to be there.
which one?
The older son.
Yeah, Yeah, that was kind of a toss away. I was
He's
like,
kind of a
what?
throwaway character. He didn't really bring much to the table.
Yeah.
Let me guess the part that Jess didn't like, and I won't
Mhm.
spoil it, but it's a scene where something's melded together.
Yes. Done.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not the fact that, it's the audio. The audio during this scene is very it was very saddening. And then the visual on top of that was also saddening. And it went on for longer than I thought because she just kept saying, "You got to turn this off. You got to turn this off." And I thought it was ending. I was like, "Oh, I think it's done." And I was like, "Man, it went on for like another 5 minutes. It just wouldn't have." And then I don't know. She wouldn't have lasted to that ending anyway. So
Oh, some great effects though.
it was good. It
It
was
looked
good.
so good.
And I did not really know what to expect with that ending. But it was I didn't love it. It was definitely different than what I thought it was going to be, so I enjoyed the surprise. But I think at most I would give it a 7. I'm okay with giving it a 7. You
Yeah,
said 9.
go back and read the story, then watch it again.
I
Maybe
do.
maybe
Now
you'll feel a little different.
I want to read some of the Lovecraft stories now and see which ones were shitty movie adaptations. See how they did with that.
Yeah, this is a good one to start off with too, because some of his other stuff builds a whole mythology, and
Mm.
this is kind of just a standalone story.
I like the whole the Cthulhu monster, if that's how it's pronounced. I like that
Cthulhu.
monster. It's Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Spoken like a true Lovecraft fan. Wait, what did I say? I said a th, a Cthulhu. Charlie Cthulhu. All right.
But yeah, check it out. And again, if you're a horror fan, if you like practical effects, if
You
you're
like Nick
HP Love,
Cage?
if you like Nick Cage, if you like HP Lovecraft, you're going to like this film. It's not a perfect film, but like I said, it elicits feeling out of you of tension, which I really liked.
Yeah, yeah. It's worth a watch. Absolutely.
All right, folks. Oh, this is a heartbreaking one. Um, I watched Jay and Silent Bob Reboot this
Oh,
week. Um, Let me start this off by saying that I've been a long time fan of Kevin Smith. Just started falling off that train the last couple years when he did Yoga Hosers, which was terrible.
it goes.
Um, what terror! Not nowhere near as terrible as this film, but it is still a terrible film. But I like Kevin Smith. This film was just so bad. Uh, they It's so bad that he has to travel around and charge people $35 in convention centers, or whatever, to come watch it. Nobody will put it in a fucking theater. Um, he's actually in town, and I'm in Charleston. He's in town, I think, this week or next week, and I bought this movie, unfortunately,
Oh
but
man.
because I was looking, oh, how much does it cost? Because he does the Q&A afterward, and him and Jason Mewes, who plays Jay.
Jay.
So I met Jason Mewes before. He's an awesome dude. And I've hung out with him at Days of the Dead, and yeah, he's an awesome guy. But I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to go see this. And then I saw it's like for shitty seats, like $35 a ticket. I'm glad I
Wow.
didn't do that, because I would have been throwing shit at the stage. Because if I went with my wife and I just spent $70 to see this shit,
Shit. Yeah. 70
uh,
bucks.
yeah. And it's cool, if it's something that you really like, and you get to see the director and everything, especially in podunk fucking shit town I'm in. It doesn't come around too often. But yeah, it's this movie is basically what he did. He tried to make a greatest hits album of a movie.
Mm.
It's all rehashed jokes. I did not laugh once.
Like a movie of a clip show.
Yeah, just all the
Mhm.
characters from all his other films are making cameos and rehashing the same joke. The plot, and that he tries to play this off as a joke about being a reboot. But you can only take that joke so far. You can't make a whole movie a joke about making a reboot and turn your whole film into just a fucking joke. So again, him and Jay and Silent Bob are off on their way to go to Hollywood again to stop another Blunt Man and Chronic film, which is the same exact plot as Jay and Silent Bob, the first film. Is that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? Yes, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. That film was okay. Then they did the other Jay and Silent Bob film, and it just started getting weaker and weaker. But this film was nothing but rehash. And I know people are going to say, this is what Kevin Smith's intent was. It does not matter what his intent was. He can say that's his intent to answer to this fucking drudge of a film. And so everybody who's ever been in this film, you have Jason Lee and Shannon Elizabeth, Rosario Dawson, Ben Affleck, like everybody who's ever been in his films before show back up.
You sound like you sound like Kevin Smith dumped you. Like he just like totally broke off a relationship with you. Like you guys had something so wonderful, and he just shat all over you and threw you in the gutter. Like it's so much. It's not necessarily Kevin Smith hate, but it's just like he's like, I used to love him, and now he's a straight up asshole.
It was like if you're a Tom Brady fan, and then he goes to Pittsburgh or something. And I hate Tom Brady. But
man,
just saying is. It's like when Babe Ruth left Boston and went to New York. Not calling him Babe Ruth, but it's you know how I usually write reviews, and even if I don't like something, I'm not usually just totally a dick about it and nasty. Out of probably put 100 reviews in our group. And even if I don't really like something, I'm just not usually nasty about it. And this film pissed me off. Which most films, even if I can't stand it, they don't piss me off. But this film pissed me off. It's technically sound. It's just the writing and the acting, and it's it looks fine. And I don't really care if I ruin this for other people.
I don't. I'm not really a huge fan of the series.
I gave this a 1 out of 10. So if you want to cut it off and don't want to hear anymore, please do that. But at your own risk. There is a scene at the end of the film where Silent Bob finds a big Iron Man suit in a scrapyard and comes back in to save the day. That's in this movie.
That's super cheesy.
They call him Iron Bob.
Oh God! I bet he came up with that name first. He's like, "Oh man, that would be cool, Iron Bob." I'm like, we could totally run with that, man. Let's find the suit in the scrapyard. Like, that's how these kind of shitty ideas come up.
And
he tries to stoned.
He tries to save the movie by having most of it be self-deprecating humor. But it he deserves everything that he's saying. Like they're making fun. Because Silent Bob, Kevin Smith is also a character in the film.
You're like, he's taking the words right out of my mouth.
Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob, but he's also Kevin Smith in the film. And they're talking about how shitty of a director Kevin Smith is. And Silent Bob is laughing around and nodding, like pretty much just making fun of himself. But yeah, this was a shit film. I had to go back and watch Clerks just remember how I used to love Kevin Smith. And
the good old days when you guys were together and happy.
Supposedly, I've read he's trying to work on Clerks 3. Kevin, please don't. Just retire. You had the heart attack. You almost died. You have enough money. Stop putting your shitty daughter in films and go retire. And
is he just bringing back your lover girl?
Who's that? Rosario?
Yeah.
I don't know. He'll probably put his shitty ass daughter in the film too, because he has to put her ever since Husk. Ever since Tusk. I said
Tusk. I was like, what's Husk? I didn't see that.
ever since Tusk, he has to put his daughter. She was in Yoga Hosers, and now she's in this.
Who's she in Tusk? I don't remember her in Tusk.
She the girls who are in Yoga Hosers. That's Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's daughter. They're in Tusk. They are the
Johnny Depp and Kevin Smith have a daughter.
Yeah, well, yeah, man. I'm hoping separately, but yeah, the two girls who work at the convenience store in Tusk.
Her name is Harley Quinn Smith in real life.
Yes.
I'm done. I don't care about this person.
Forget. You named your daughter after the Joker's slut.
Abused girlfriend. Yeah, like this.
Yeah, his
you know,
when Harley abused.
Yeah, for people who like when that movie came out and like people started modeling themselves after Harley Quinn and stuff, like I don't think you really understand the origins of these characters. And like, oh yeah, there were all these memes coming out like with Joker and Harley like holding each other or something, and it's like, oh, to have a love like this or something. I was like, you don't even fucking understand their romantic relationship. Like, I think you need to read the comics first before you start wanting a love like that.
She's a mentally unbalanced groupie is pretty much what she is.
Almost married to a mentally unbalanced, criminally insane individual. Yeah.
And he treats her like shit most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, to sum it up. Yeah, so stupid. It was such a trend for like little girls' costumes and stuff. I was like, this is gross. Like, it's just a whole marketing thing, but like nobody understands what they're dressing their kids up in.
My daughter wanted to be Harley Quinn, and this is at her mother's house. She let her watch what's the Suicide Squad. And so my daughter saw it before me, and I really had no interest in seeing it after the reviews. But I started watching it, and like the first 15 minutes, I'm not watching this with my child. And she's like, oh God, like she's slutting it up the whole damn time.
Yeah.
I don't want my child watching that.
The movie wasn't good anyway. I wouldn't subject anyone to that movie unless I
didn't make it past the first 10, 15 minutes. I still have never seen that movie.
Will Smith could not save that movie. Like, even if you just said, hey, let's go see this Will Smith movie, there's not enough of him in it to save it. Because Will Smith could save any movie. Will Smith, when Will works his...
Tell that to Gemini, man.
I did the review of that.
Tell that to the producers who are still waiting for her money to come back.
When you thought a movie could not have enough awesome gold like Will Smith, double it. And that's Gemini Man. I mean, it's twice the Will Smith. It's impossible to get better than that. So Gemini
Will Smith is in the Rock level for me.
Oh, that good. All right.
Yeah.
I walked in on they had it playing in IMAX. The Bad Boys 3. It's 3, right? 3 movie. Now I want to see it. I really didn't care to go see it in theaters, but I saw like some of the scenes and I was like, oh, it's a little different. Like some of the camera work and stuff, and Michael
Bay's not directing it. Who's the worst?
Yeah, maybe
directing.
I mean, I'm happy that he got some of the movies out that he did, like, because I'm a fan of Transformers.
Oh God, they're so terrible.
You know, the movies aren't the best, but the storylines are great. Like, I'm a huge fan of the original stuff, the cartoon series, and
I don't think he wrote them. I think he just directs them.
Yeah, the base explosions. Gotta have the base explosions.
Yeah. Fuck Michael Bay too.
He's if
I find out he's a producer, I won't watch the film.
What about Armageddon? What about what else did he do? Man, there's so many of those. Oh, am I thinking Jerry Bruckheimer?
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah,
that was Jerry Bruckheimer. Yeah, those two were just like very. What's the word? Like not 90, like late 90s, right? Mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's our Michael Bay bit. I think.
Yeah. So just in closing, don't watch this movie, please. just don't. Don't give Kevin Smith any of your money.
Gosh.
Wait for it to come out free streaming. before you watch it. Don't
Before you
pay
waste your time.
Yeah, and then you'll just be upset about the time you wasted, not the money.
That's pretty crazy, $35. But then, like you said, there was a Q&A and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have had some questions for him. Kevin, what the fuck were you thinking?
Where can I get my money back?
I thought you had a heart attack, not an aneurysm. What the fuck happened?
Maybe it was out of oxygen for a little time. It's part of his brain shut down.
Eat a steak, man. The vegan life isn't for him.
Holy cow! I just saw a recent picture of him. He lost a lot of weight. Like he looks like just like an old man now. You know that really crazy gaunt look. All his neck fat, or what is that? His neck skin is all popping out.
And he does this thing because he's Silent Bob, where they do this joke so many times it's so annoying. He pulls out his smartphone and starts incessantly tapping on it, and then shows an emoji.
Oh my god.
Okay, the first time, okay, yeah, that's kind of cute, I guess. But they do this like 5 fucking times in a movie.
Like I remember seeing parts of the first movie. I never saw it all the way through. It just wasn't my thing. But he was kind of like the cute character, right? He was quiet. He was like, oh yeah, the lovable Kevin Smith, that Bob character.
Yeah.
And then I can see how that can get way overdone, especially when he's directing it and he's like the one pushing himself to. It's funny.
And Jay's trying to wear the same clothes he did back in the mid-90s.
That guy's
doing the same exact character, and he's getting older, and he's had a lot of drug problems in his personal life, and he just doesn't. Just let that part go, man. Just let it go.
I mean, it looks like they made like $3.5 million on this so far, gross.
$10 million budget.
Was it? There was no budget information. You heard?
That's what Wikipedia has, at least.
The other movie I saw was Underwater, which was on my list for my top 20. Top 20? No, the upcoming movies of 2020 that we talked about with, who's our guest? Tony? That was with Tony Wash, right? Yeah. So I saw it. I went in. Bar was incredibly low. It's a Kristen Stewart movie and a few other people that you know. TJ Miller. Dude, TJ Miller was just the life of the movie because when he finishes his acting on scene, on screen, it gets way darker. Like TJ Miller, he's just always doing the comedy at the right and wrong times. So it wasn't overdone. It was definitely enjoyable, and I'm just gonna say this is a TJ Miller movie. But it was the monster. There is a monster. They're at the depth of the ocean. They're at the floor of the ocean in this lab, which is collapsing, and they don't know why. They discover these smaller creatures, these man-sized creatures, are out there in the water, and of course, the only way they can save themselves is to get out of the lab and walk the ocean floor. This is in the trailer too. They walk the ocean floor to another lab. This is not a safe trip across. Of course, they encounter these monsters, and it almost takes like an environmental stance, like we're disturbing the deep, and this is what we deserve, kind of thing at some point. And not everything makes sense. The ending, I think I said in my review, the movie has sort of a Cloverfield kind of feel to it. I won't say why exactly, because the ending is probably the best bit of the whole movie.
The Paradox or the original?
Oh, that was the other name. Because I was like, what was that other? That was like a prequel or something to it, right?
I haven't seen it because it got such bad reviews, but
I liked it. I didn't think it was so bad. I think you should give it a. Oh, that's a TJ Miller movie too. He's in that, isn't he? Yeah. His arm gets cut off or something in Paradox. Oh, is it Paradox?
Yeah, it's the Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah, that's right. It was the subtitle to that. Yeah, Cloverfield Paradox. Yeah, that's so funny. TJ Miller's in that as well. Yeah, so it gave me a Cloverfield kind of feel. I won't say, but towards the end you'll get it. But like the last 10, 15 minutes, probably the best. Just like because that happens. Um, it's not really. If you have a fear of the depths of the ocean, I mean, you should definitely see it in theaters before it leaves because it gave me, the willies. All those scenes when they're just staring off into like the darkness of the ocean. Like, oh, I can't. I almost looked away and I was like, it's just a movie. It's like it's fine. But they really, when they're just walking through. Oh, Cloverfield and Pitch Black with Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Both of those, it was kind of like a mix of both of those, like how Pitch Black, if anyone remembers that movie, they're on this planet that's inhabited by these beings that can only live in the dark, and they happen to crash land on it when it's going through its eclipse that's going to last some, I don't know, 10,000 years or something. It's had
That's
like
the
sunlight.
birth of the Riddick character.
Exactly, yeah, Riddick, and then the Chronicles of Riddick, all that after that. But don't even, if you're not into any kind of thing horror, don't even go see this in theaters. It's just fun to see in theaters, like I said, for those big ocean kind of creepy scenes. Otherwise, I guess rent it. It's okay.
Well, I
The
guess
climate this was okay.
I read that he based the creature design off
It's
the.
it's very Cthulhu like. It is, yeah, because it's an underwater thing and it's got kind of an octopus looking face and stuff.
Well, I did see a review that said it's the best Alien ripoff that they've seen.
Oh, the first time, so they first catch something, and it almost looks like the chest burster scene where it's still alive and whatever, it runs about the ship, but part doesn't happen. But yeah, there's almost like it looks just like the med bay scene where they find the animal. They're like looking at the creature and stuff, and yeah, there's some similarities. And I was like, oh, okay, like I guess it's time to bring it back. 60 years later, or what is it? 79, you said, right? 69.
Yeah, 79.
79, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
so
what stopped me from seeing it is that they made it PG-13.
yeah, there was really anytime someone got hurt, it was like an explosion inside their suit. Apparently someone got ripped. It didn't make any fucking sense. So TJ Miller dies. Okay, he's not a survivor type anyway. He's the fucking clown ass guy. He gets stuck, and the monster pulls him through his suit, like from like his foot or something. So like, can you imagine a person in one of these deep sea suits, and you open the suit on the foot, and you just pull a whole human body through that? Like, give me a break. It doesn't even fucking make sense. Like, you're gonna have way more, issue trying to get that body out. Like, it's not like sucking an egg out of a shell or anything. Like, I don't know. It was just like, okay, whatever. And all you see is like, oh, explosion of blood inside the suit because the visor's all glass. I was like, whatever. They just found every cheap way to not show any blood and gore and stuff, and it was a bit tiresome.
I'm surprised he's still getting parts.
He's awesome.
He got
He's
swept up.
hilarious.
Well, I'm just saying he got swept up in the Me Too movement and all that stuff.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had like some sexual assault allegations. I'm surprised they haven't canceled T.J. Miller.
Oh, I didn't hear about all that.
I think that's why. Yeah, I don't think they're bringing him back for Deadpool 3.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's the bartender guy that was in 2 anyway. I don't remember him 1.
Yeah, supposedly some shit he did while he was in college.
Oh. Oh, not even his recent thing. It's about something from his way past.
Yeah, something that resurfaced.
Oh.
So just when you say that he was in this, I was surprised, but I guess they did film it.
Yeah, it could have been before before all this kind of started.
They definitely filmed it before the Disney buyout. I know that.
Disney bought out what?
Before Disney bought out Fox, this was the last.
Oh.
This was the last 21st Century Fox film that was actually filmed in the can.
Oh, okay.
Before the Disney buyout.
Man, Disney, dude, we gotta do like, I don't know, like a segment discussion on Disney because this is insane. Disney is gonna be like owning everything, and they're gonna be the owning like the whole media market and like everything we watch. It's just like all Disney is gonna be wow.
Yeah, I'm so surprised that because you see the government stepping in to stop monopolization on much smaller scale than
Mm.
what Disney's doing, what they're allowing Disney to do. Um, when Comcast tried to buy out Time Warner, and they tried to combine, government stepped right in and said,
Yeah,
"Fuck no, we're not letting it happen." And they're just internet providers. They're not
yeah,
even, Comcast owned NBC, so it had some part in it. But
yeah, and Universal Studios.
yeah, look how
Yeah.
much Disney owns, though.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not saying. I'm just saying like yeah, you're right. They're really on top of them. And then I don't know, like I feel like Disney is just gradually I don't know. I don't know when is this going to end. I mean, I own some stock in Disney, so I mean by all means keep going. So it's great. It's great for Disney. I should be supporting them.
Yeah, I did. I don't know how far they're going to let them get, though. I mean, they're
Well, they just need to get some kind of government office and then they can keep going for as long as they want. They just need to get, posthumously award Walt Disney President of the United States and then they can run the country.
Yeah, and I think I read, and this was um, the latter part of last year, they were responsible for over 50% of box office.
Yeah. Oh, we were reading about that. That was sometime in the beginning of when we started the podcast. We were talking about that. It was like it was last year or something. They were
Yeah,
saying that the movies released that year were like 80%. It was high. It was like 60 or 70% were Disney box office hits and stuff or Disney related.
yeah.
Like,
Well, it's
whoa.
just that the total gross amount of the box office, Disney had over 50% of that.
That's insane.
So if $10 was spent at a movie theater, Disney had five of it.
At least
If not,
five,
at
right?
least five of it.
Yeah. Oh
That's
my
just
God.
insane, man.
Be sure to tune into the next episode when we're going to talk about our top 10 Oscar nominations for Best Picture. And also, we're going to have our first annual Coasties.
Mm.
It's basically Oscars, but yeah, we're gonna pick who we think should win, as well as maybe make some bets on who we think is actually gonna win the Oscars based on whatever fans and who's paying off the judges the most. We'll have our picks for those too. But yeah,
Yeah,
who we
yeah,
think is
we want to see if the Oscars got it right, so we might have some of our own picks in there as well.
exactly, yeah. And just to let you know, we are available on a number of different platforms now. Still haven't heard back from Pandora, screw them. But we are, I do upload the episodes to YouTube. We're up on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Blubrry Podcasting, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and Listen Notes so far. And as of this moment, we have just hit 700 members in our Coast to Coast Film Reviews Facebook group. So thanks so
Ooh.
much to all of our members who have been staying in the group because while while we do need people to grow these numbers, you definitely need to sit around and at least listen and read our bullshit that we have to say about movies. We welcome you to share your reviews and posts and talk about movies and just engage with us, talk with us, tell us some of your favorite movies and maybe even some suggestions for the show if you have any. But thank you so much. 700 members, like this is crazy. It's just like every day there's just like one or two new and I was like, "Whoa, what the heck?" Like who wants to listen and read this stuff? I think they're coming for you, David. I think you're the one bringing all the people in.
Oh, I don't know.
They're,
I
they're
wouldn't
coming.
say that.
They're coming in to get more of that Gibson anywhere they can get it.
It's all my horror family.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode of Coast to Coast Film Reviews. I'm Raj. Have a good night.
This is David. Have a great time of day.